Hey, Daily Dosers, this is Pastor Larry, and this week we're taking a look at First Peter. And today I want to take a look at something from chapter 1 that we flew by in that message. And it's a section where Peter says that we are to live as holy people. Now, you might remember if you heard this last weekend's message that First Peter was written to people who were in the midst of a spiritually hostile world, telling them how to think and therefore how to live. And he uses this phrase that we didn't have the time to read in the message. Therefore, with minds that are alert and fully sober because of what God has done to us, set your hope, your confidence on the grace to be brought to you when Jesus Christ is revealed at his coming, our future. And in our present, as obedient children, do not conform to the evil desires you had when you lived in ignorance before you knew the truth. But just as he who called you is holy, so be holy in all you do. For it is written, and he's quoting from the Old Testament, be holy because I am holy. Now, what comes to your mind when you hear that word holy? I think for a lot of us, it's one of those stained glass words where when we think of somebody who's holy, if we can be honest, we think of somebody who's weird. You know, a holy person is just like otherworldly. Maybe they have a prayer life that is just mind boggling to us. They're incredibly passive and quiet, or their whole life is all centered around the Bible and they don't kind of have any real life common sense because we've got all these goofy definitions of what holy is. And yet, throughout the Bible, we're actually called to be holy, and we're called holy because you know what the Hebrew in the Old Testament and the Greek in the New Testament word holy means? It just means to be set apart. Now think about that. That's well within reach for all of us. And that's what God has called us to do. He says, you know what? We don't just conform in our life so that we fit in like everybody else. We're not jerks for Jesus. We're not spiritual weirdos. But we don't adapt and adopt from our culture all of the values and ideas that it has. We live differently. We are set apart. And in this passage here, another way we live differently at the beginning is we set our hope not on the things the world chases, the things we so naturally chase in our faith. You know, if I could only get into this college, if I could only get this degree, if I could only get this career, if I could only rise to this level. No, if I could only get my finances here, if I could only own one of these. Oh, if I could own three of these. If I would have the freedom to do this, or I would have the fame of that. And we have all of these little brass rings we're trying to get because our hope is in them. And along the way, we often destroy our own health, the health of our family, the health of our marriages, because we're chasing all of these things where our hope is. And the Bible is simply saying, be holy, be set apart, be different. Don't make that the brass ring, which is really, once you get it, nothing more than a bubble that's going to burst. The thing that you set your hope on, your confidence on. Make it on the spiritual inheritance that Jesus Christ is guaranteed with his own resurrection for all of us. And in the meantime, when you're trying to figure out how to live in that meantime, how to wait, he says, don't take your cues from the world around you. Don't live like you used to naturally, just figuring out what's best or what everybody else is doing. No, he says, don't live like you did when you were ignorant. Live like you do now that your eyes have been opened to Scripture, with a different standard, with a kind of contrarian sense of like, oh, that's not what I would have thought, but this really works. You know, any of you golf? You know, like if you don't golf very much and the hole's longer, what do? You swing harder. And what do you have? A worse shot. See, in so much of life, counterintuitive, what do you do in a skid? You turn into it, not away from it like you naturally would want to. There's just so much of life that's that way. And we once lived in ignorance, but now we have the Scriptures. So he says, live in light of them and live with the right goal. And then guess what we will be? We won't be a jerk for Jesus. We won't be a spiritual weirdo. We'll be holy in the biblical sense.